Hey everybody, welcome. This is Susie, and my gosh, we have a full house tonight. I am so excited. Every single spot is going to be full, so good job, those of you who got on early, because it's possible some people won't be able to get on board. So anyway, that's so exciting. Right now, do me a favor. If you can see on the screen, it should say the 5 things to do now to get more sales bookings and prospects from Facebook will be starting soon. If you can see that okay, could you please just type in the chat box or the question box so that I am sure that everybody is seeing my screen and getting the information okay. Yay, thank you. Now we're going to give this just a minute because I certainly want to honor everybody who got here on time, but I know there's a whole bunch of people who are still logging in. So thanks for giving it just a minute of patience here. I have so much important information to share with you, so I am excited to get this baby started. Now, keep in mind at any time during the webinar, if you have questions, you can certainly type those into the question box or in the chat box, whatever you choose. Because I'm doing both the webinar and monitoring the dashboard, I will check them periodically, and I definitely have a time scheduled to address questions. But feel free to type them in at any time, okay? We're going to give it just another 30 seconds and then we're ready to go. All right, let's get started. I want to thank you so much for being here. I am so excited about this topic. I work privately with several coaching students, and one of the things I've been hearing from them is that they've been doing a lot of things out on Facebook, but they aren't really seeing a lot of business as a result of those efforts. So I wanted to put together some important information to share to talk about how that can become a big part of your strategy. So this is going to be filled with lots of tips and important business building info. Now, I want you to keep in mind, I have renamed myself. I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, I'm a trainer, all those things. But I have renamed myself a business building strategist because I really look at these things and I look at how does this fit into an overall picture of how you can use this strategically to build your business. So if you're thinking that this webinar is going to just talk about how to have a big Facebook party, that's not what I'm going to cover tonight. I want to teach you how you can be using Facebook to continually attract leads, continually stay connected and build that rapport with your customer and hostess and prospect base, and really how you can use this for long-term strategic and rapid business growth. Okay? I'm also going to be sharing a big secret. I have not shared this outside of my private coaching students, and a special surprise during the webinar. So be sure to stay with me all the way through the end, okay? Now, we have a bunch of new people on this webinar, and guess what? A whole big bunch of them came from Facebook. So I am going to go through a little bit of my background because they haven't been exposed to my information yet because they're new leads from Facebook. Hint, hint. So let me take a minute to introduce myself. Now, I'm Susie Nelson, and I have a really long list of successes in the direct sales industry. I built and maintained one of the top organizations in my former direct sales company. I became its second national sales manager, and that was a really big deal in our company. Only 6 consultants ever achieved that level. You had to do it by promoting out at least 10 managers. I actually promoted a lot more than that. I promoted the most managers of anyone in our company, 16 directly and 2 indirectly. And we didn't have generations like a lot of the compensation structures have these days. So when you promoted a manager, they literally were taken out of your organization. And I love building leaders. It's my favorite thing to do in the business. I think everybody deserves to promote themselves to the level that they dream about. And I think everybody's capable of doing it. So it's my favorite thing to do. And I am very proud that in my former company that I helped 16 people do that directly and 2 indirectly. I earned this Circle of Excellence in my company every single year. 8 of those years, a Circle of Excellence you achieved by doing at least $650,000 in unit sales. My unit exceeded $1 million in sales 8 separate years. And one year we actually exceeded $2 million and we were number 2 in sales in the company. So lots and lots of sales. The biggest thing was I got to go on incredible trips all around the world because of achieving that Circle of Excellence every single year. So it was a huge treat. I have memories and friends and places that I never would have been to had I not been able to achieve those levels. So it was really quite an honor. I also, in the last year, worked on the corporate side of the business for 2 startup companies. And that takes things to a whole new dimension when you're working with people and training people. You really learn a lot to look at things from all different perspectives, and it was a great experience. So I've got that corporate side of the business. And I'm a published author. I actually just finished my second book about a month and a half ago. The first one is called I Did It and You Can Too: How to Build a 6-Figure Business in Just 15 Hours per Week. And the second one, I actually need to rename it. It has the wrong name, and that became apparent after I did all the research. I named the book and then got all this research from this big survey that I did, and it turned out it really wasn't the right name, but it's called 2 Times the Fun. If you're going to build more than one direct sales business, here's how to do it right. And it's really important, the information, if you either are working on more than one business or if you have consultants in your organization who are building more than one business. It's really important information. Both those books are available on Kindle or through my website. Now, that's a list of some of my accomplishments. There's a bunch of stuff on my website. You can look it up yourself. But what's most important about me and why you should pay attention is that I built and maintained a 6-figure income with my home party business, and I kept that level of income for 11 years straight, and I've got the 1099s to prove it. In fact, if you look on my website, you'll find them scattered throughout my website. I threw a couple of them in here so you can see, but definitely a 6-figure income. And me being the anal numbers person that I am, I actually calculated out what my income would be in some of the plans today where you have generations. And I would have been earning 7 figures through that time frame. So, I would love for each and every one of you to build that kind of level of success. And I know you can do it because if you know anything about me, if I did it, anyone can do it. I have been where many of you want to go. So these days, my goal is to train, coach, and mentor other consultants so that they too can build big businesses. I'm passionate about it. That's what I want to do these days. Keep in mind, I won't ever recommend or teach you to do anything that I haven't tried and proven myself. And that's why I decided I needed to call myself a business growth strategist. I want to look at your compensation plans and look at what you're doing with your business and help you map out a strategy so that you can rapidly build to that 6- and 7-figure income. So today we're going to talk about Facebook. Now, there is so much to learn about Facebook and it changes constantly. This could be an 8-hour webinar and we still wouldn't cover it all. But I'm going to get you into some basics and some things to really think about as you're working that medium for your business. Now, I do have to put out a couple disclaimers. This is that kind of legal stuff you got to do. First of all, I share my income information and I post my 1099s. Obviously, that's not a guarantee that you'll earn the same because there are so many factors that impact your income. Your company, its products, your compensation plan, your willingness to take action, and so on and so on. So I just have to put that disclaimer out there. Also, the second thing, and this is really, really important, I'm going to share strategies and techniques for using Facebook to build your business strategically. You are responsible to determine whether or not your company has policies that allow or prohibit you from doing what I recommend. And I have looked at so many different companies' rules and regulations. Really, things are all over the board these days. But I do know that the more these companies are hearing about social media every time they go to a DSA meeting, the more that they are open to allowing more and more things. So keep that in mind. Keep up to date on what your company's policies are. But I don't want you to do anything that's going to get you in trouble with your company. Certainly, I'm not recommending anything that should get you in trouble with your company. But you have to check those rules and make sure everything is okay for you to do, okay? All right, so there's this really cool way that you guys can put your hands up. I am curious how many of you right now, find the little thing on your dashboard that lets you raise your hand. I'm curious how many of you have a Facebook page set up for your business or for yourself personally. So put your hand up if that's the case. Okay, I'm seeing some hands go up. That's great. Looks like about a third of our attendees have some sort of Facebook page. Maybe a few more hands are going up. Maybe it's close to half. So that's terrific because a Facebook page versus your personal Facebook account is the place where you need to be. So how many of you, of those who raised your hand and you have a Facebook page, how many of you are regularly getting sales, bookings, prospects for your efforts on Facebook? Again, raise your hand if you're getting lots of sales and lots of prospects on Facebook. Now, 3 hands went up. We have a packed house tonight and 3 hands went up. So that's why this information is so important. One of my mentors, a guy named Dan Kennedy, that I have learned so incredibly much from. He's not in the direct sales business, but he has coached actually big direct sales companies over his years of business coaching. He has a saying that says, your time is a more valuable asset than money. And it's so true. So if you're spending a whole big bunch of time out on Facebook, but you're not getting a return for that investment, that's really expensive, even though you're not spending money on it from your checking account. So keep that in mind as we go through this information. Now, before we can actually dive into Facebook, okay, we have to take a step back to talk about marketing, because there are some critical pieces of information that you really need to think about as part of your strategy. Okay, so first of all, when you think about marketing, the first question you need to ask yourself is, who do you want to attract? Now, I need to give you an example, and you might be saying, oh, I want anybody. You know what? That's not good for your business. I want you to really think about who your best hostesses have been and who your best customers have been. What kinds of things do they have in common? Do they all go to the same stores, or do they all read the same kinds of magazines? Or maybe are they all a certain age range and have, 2.7 children? Think about who these people are and see what you can figure out that they have in common. I have to tell you, I absolutely applaud these efforts. When people take action and they learn from their actions, I think that is just spectacular. So I'd rather see somebody take some action and learn from it than do nothing. But I was working with some consultants, and they were participating in these ladder things where they were just basically swapping likes. And so they were building their Facebook likes because you like me, I'll like you, and everybody has a big following of likes. And their thinking was that if there were a whole bunch of likes on their page, it would give people the impression that they really needed to be followed and that they were really popular. Now, I'm going to tell you, I would rather have 100 followers on my page who are right for my product and my business than 5,000 random individuals that I have not thought about attracting. In other words, I don't know that they're right for my business. So I want to strategically do things on Facebook so that I can attract the right kind of followers. All right, that's really important. That in the marketing world is what we call figuring out your target market. The second thing, and this is also really important, I want you to think about where they live. Excuse me, I had a sip of water. Now, the reason that this is important, because you can actually target things right down to your zip code on Facebook. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. I'm actually doing a training webinar on that topic for some of my club members in a couple weeks. It's an important topic. But you can actually target right down to your hometown. And what I would suggest to you, it is so powerful, especially if it is the early stages of building your direct sales empire, to start by building a big team close to home. There's this crazy thing that happens when you get a good group building close to home, and it doesn't take a ton of people. In my business, I knew, because I moved 5 times, and I moved to new states. This wasn't just moving across town. This was moving to an entire different state. And I moved places where I didn't know anybody. So I literally had to figure out how to relaunch my personal business in a place where I didn't know anyone. And so I got really good at it. But what I figured out after moving a couple times is that once I got to a group of consultants, about 8 to 10 consultants who lived within, 15 to 20 miles of my home, my business was just going to go crazy, and I would promote 2 or 3 managers within the next year or two. It worked. It was like clockwork. It is really powerful to have that group close to home. Now, even me in the early stages of my business, I had this misperception that, I want to have, this group all over the country. And eventually I ended up with people in 42 states. It wasn't the fastest way to build my business. Getting that group close to home means you can meet with them and get together and do fun social things. And they get maybe a little competitive, friendly competition. And they can help each other out. And they can attend one of your parties to watch you in action. So there's so many things that can happen when you build a big group right in your backyard. And you can target that on Facebook. So where do they live? That's your second question. Number 3, this is also critically important. What are you going to do with them once you attract them? Are they just going to come and be another like on your page? Because if you don't figure out strategically how you're going to eventually get more than just their like on Facebook, that's not really attracting a lead. You want to figure out a way that you can strategically get information about how to connect with them in other ways. So what info will you collect? How will you build that relationship? And number 4, again, we're talking about your marketing decisions, your strategic decisions for your business. Your most powerful and most profitable marketing will be a combination of several mediums. Now, what I mean by that, and this webinar today is an absolute perfect example. I started by promoting this webinar on Facebook. Okay, I put up a post. It had a picture with it. I took it to the level of being a promoted post, which means Facebook then also displays that information to the friends of the people who like my page. So it expands you out. It took me out to, I think, reaching like almost 6,000 people who would see it. Within 1 hour, I had 31 registrations and for this webinar within an hour just by putting that post on Facebook. And guess what? On that registration form, you probably noticed that I asked for an address and phone number. Now, one of the surprises I'm going to share later in this webinar is something special that I'm going to mail to everybody who entered a real address and phone number. So I was able to take contacts from Facebook and now collect their address and phone number through a different medium, meaning my webinar sign up, which isn't connected to Facebook. It just was the link that they clicked to. It was a way for me to generate leads for my business. So can you see how easy this can work? Okay, so let's start to talk about the basics. Now, what I'm going to share right now, to be honest, might make a few of you a little nervous. Okay? And it's okay. Again, I want you to make sure you're clear on your company's rules, but I want to talk about how you set up your Facebook page. So if it's going to make you hyperventilate, make sure you've got a little paper bag handy. Again, this is all okay. This is all learning, right? I really believe that your business page should be focused on you. Okay, so, I have a page that is Susie Nelson Training, and it's my personal business page. It should be focused on you. Remember, I said check your company rules to see if that's okay, but let me give you a great example of why this is so important. You want to brand you. You want people to be developing a relationship with you. So, if you know any top realtors in your area, I am betting that you know their names. Now, chances are you might not know what brokerage they're associated with, but you know their name. In fact, they could move to a different real estate company and not miss a beat. So, if you might know their name, but you might not know the company they're affiliated with. And that is because they promote themselves, the good ones, the really top realtors, they promote themselves as the person that you're connecting with. They are selling their services in themselves. So like I said, they could change companies tomorrow and never lose a second of momentum in their business. So the thing about Facebook is, if you are promoting yourself, you're probably going to be asking yourself, how do I promote my company stuff then? And the question is, and I'm sorry, that is my cat in the background. The question is, how do you promote your own company stuff? And the answer is, believe it or not, you don't. Now, I don't mean to shock you, but here's what happens right now, and it's the reason so many people aren't getting good results with Facebook, is that they don't understand how this medium really works and what its purpose is. So this is what they do. They start connecting, they set up a page, and they ask, their connections and their close friends to like it, so they start to build their following. And the minute they start to get some people on that page, their first post says, buy this special. And then their second post says, here's what you can do with this product. Buy it. And then their third post, book a party this month. Here's this month's special. And then their fourth post is, sign up now. We have a kit special. And then they set up another post that says, I just set up an event. It's a sale. So if you think about that, all that stuff is them saying, here's my product. Here's my company. Here's my information. Buy, or sign. And this is called a social medium. So guess what your friends and your connections are going to do when you behave in that manner out on Facebook? They are going to hide your posts. They don't want to offend you by unliking you or leaving a group if you've put them in a group. So they are going to hide your posts. It's like switching the channel. They just are going to turn you off, okay? Because they're not interested in seeing all that stuff. So write this down. This is really, really important. You see, your goal with social media is to make connections. And then in your strategic plan, you take them off the social media platform to get their contact information and then to start selling or booking or telling them about the business. But this is the place where you nurture the relationship. So let's talk about part 2 of the basics of being out on Facebook. Let's talk about how you're going to make these connections. Because here's how it works. You're going to attract, engage, figure out how to collect their information. Then eventually you'll get to sell them products and book parties and all those things. And of course, this is the place where you work to retain them in your customer base. Your Facebook page needs to become the place where they get to know you, like you, and trust you. That's the purpose of this medium. All right, so before I talk about how you do each of those things, are there any questions? So you can go ahead and type a question into the question box. Does this make sense so far? Are there any questions? And I know it can take a little bit to get those typed in. So I'm going to give you a second and I'm going to sip on some water because I tend to lose my voice on these things. All right, I'm not seeing any questions so far. All right, I'm going to keep going, but feel free to type a question in that question box if you have any. All right, so the first thing we need to talk about is what you need to do to start to attract more people. Now, again, earlier I said you need a business page. You don't want to be doing sending your prospects and trying to attract them onto your personal page. That's the place where you post pictures of your kids and talk about potty training and all those things. Okay, so you want to be doing this on a professional business page, and I really think that professional page should be about you. But if your company requires that it has to be set up under a company name, then you need to certainly comply with your company's rules. But if possible, set it up under your name. So we're going to talk about what you post, when you post it, how you promote it, and the possibility of using Facebook ads. So what you post. Now, you obviously want to be posting photos, images, videos. Your own photos, images, and videos are better for you than posting those that you find from somebody else's postings. In other words, yeah, it's fun to share that crazy video or, the funny cartoon that you saw on somebody else's page. But it's more powerful for you to be posting your own original pictures, videos, and work. Okay? Images can only have 20% words. If you want to set them up eventually as a promoted post. At least that's the current rule on Facebook. Like I said, they change things all the time. You can post videos. What a great way to also now take advantage of, say, a YouTube account is, post a video to YouTube and then take the embed code and put it onto your Facebook page and share it on Facebook. So that's a great way to post videos. On some of your posts, say, hey, if you like this, please share it with your friends. Or, if you like it, hit the like below. Ask for feedback or ideas. I posted something the other day just to see what would happen. I'm considering moving to a different area. So I asked everybody, if you could live in the most fabulous place in the United States, where would you recommend? And I had like 15 people give me their recommendations of places where they thought I should live. I might ask, I need a recipe for XYZ. Anybody got any recipes they can share? I posted something the other day about, the royal baby and got a whole bunch of feedback on that. You can also do fill in the blanks. It could be, if you didn't have to work on Monday, you would do blank. Okay. So you can have fun, run those kinds of little quizzes, fill in the blanks, anything to get people engaging. because Facebook cares about engagement. So if you're posting a whole bunch of stuff out there and nobody is ever liking it or commenting on it in any way, shape, or form, it's like talking to a blank room. You are just talking to yourself, because if Facebook doesn't see engagement, people liking or commenting or sharing your photo or your post with others, Facebook may not choose to show your post in a news feed, because it's kind of saying, well, nobody really cares about it, so why would we want to see this as news? So any kind of thing that you can post to fill in the blanks. And something that I recommend, there's a really easy way, because one of the things I hear all the time, people say, I don't know, where to get ideas. You can set yourself up with alerts. I've used Google Alerts. There's a new news alert that's come up because of Google making some changes with its reader. But I use alerts, and I set up for specific topics that I want to be able to find information about. It's a great way to get ideas for things to post. So for those, I can teach you more about that later, but it's a great way to get ideas. You can also basically set up information all at once. And what I mean by that is that you can you can actually set it up so that it posts on your page. Like, you could sit down Monday morning, spend a half an hour, and you could set up all of your posts for the week. I mean, there is a little time clock when you do a Facebook post. And if you click on that, as you click through, you can actually choose exactly when it's going to show up. So you can enter those in advance. There's also apps that let you do that. If some of them are free, some of them you need to pay for. But in any way, it's something you could do in a very efficient time manner by setting these things up in advance and planning it out. What kinds of things do I want to share this week? And go looking for some information. There's tons of fun stuff out there that you can share. You also need to be sure and post when people are most active, so that if it's showing in the news feed, that they're going to see it. Now, you might hang out with a crowd that's all on Facebook in the afternoon because their kids are napping. Just be aware of when you see your connections being the most active. For me, I usually post early morning, right after work, and then late evening. That's when I see the most action on my Facebook groups. Okay? Now, let's talk about how you promote. Now, there's a thing you can do on Facebook that is very inexpensive, and it's called a promoted post. Now, again, keep in mind, you're doing things to attract people to your page so that they like it. I'm not talking about you saying, we're running a special this week, and running that as a promoted post. Because again, your goal here is to create a relationship and get people to know, like, and trust you. But so if you have a really interesting post, like the post I put up for this webinar, I was offering this free webinar. I ran a promoted post, and you can do it for as little as $5. And it will actually just show the Facebook post that you just put up and chose to promote. It'll show it to the friends of the people who have liked your page. So that's how it gets out of reach. And that's a really cool way to promote something, because you have to kind of figure that a lot of their friends will have similar interests, right? So if they like your page, chances are their friends will also like your page. Now, I also put up here Facebook ads. And for those who are in any of my coaching clubs, I'm going to be going through more about that in our August social media training. But what's really important, and I'm going to give you an example, and again, I applaud that this person took this action. One of my coaching students, when we were talking a couple weeks ago, she said, "Oh, I put up a Facebook ad," and this was her first experience doing a Facebook ad. And I'm so glad that she told me, because I basically talked her through the ad. Now here's what was interesting. Remember earlier I said it's so important to build a big base close to home. Well, she had put her ad out there and she was promoting it pretty much to the world. Okay. Now, and again, if you start doing some things with Facebook ads, put very small budgets and test it first and try some things. You can set very low budgets for your ads, but she had put it to the entire world. And what I explained was, number one, it's kind of counterintuitive, but it's actually more powerful. Remember, I talked about that target market. It's more powerful to really narrow down who you're going to promote to. So as we talked through it, she first went to just the United States. Well, then we talked about who's her typical client, and we narrowed it down to women between 25 and 65 or something like that. And then you can choose whether or not they have children, and we chose with children. And then you can do these precise interests. You can actually choose. So she chose cooking because she sells spices and dip mixes and things. So she chose cooking as an interest. And this is where it got really powerful. She chose her zip code. And when you choose a zip code, you can choose within how many miles radius. Now, what happens when you do this is that you actually get a less expensive cost for your ad. And you're going to be attracting people who live close to you. So when you take it to this next step and you go to collect their information, well, now you could actually connect with these people in person as they get to know, like, and trust you. All right, is this all making sense? So again, feel free to type in a question at any time, all right? I get so excited about this stuff. I love this stuff. All right, so I want to move on to talk about how to engage. I mentioned it a little while earlier when I talked about things that you could share, but ask for feedback. Use some of those fill in the blanks. Share stories. Ask for comments. Get people feeling like they know you. Let me share something I did yesterday, I think it was. Yesterday was National Ice Cream Day. And I have to tell you that I had, when I was a kid, my mother tried. First of all, I used to love to snitch raw cookie dough when she and a friend were making Christmas cookies. So one year they decided to try to make me sick on cookie dough, and they just said, eat as much as you want. And of course I ate as much as I wanted, and I didn't get sick because I have this like iron stomach or something. So a couple years later, when my cousins were living with us, these guys, they were in their 20s. I was like 8. My mother bet them that they couldn't make me sick on ice cream cones. and so, I know this was kind of mean, wasn't it? Anyway, they took me up. We had a cabin in Wisconsin, and they said, hey, Susie, we're going to drive you to the cabin, and we're going to go the old route. And on the old route, there's like 7 or 8 Dairy Queens along the way. We stopped at every single one, and I got a large cone at every single one. And we got to the cabin. My cousins were sick. I went off to go play with the neighbor kid, and I think they each owed my mom $20. So anyway, I shared that story on Facebook. I got comments galore, and people telling me what flavor is their favorite kind of ice cream and everything like that. So that's a long thing to tell you. Share stories because people love to get to know you, and they love to hear your stories. Okay? Now, collect their info. Right? All of a sudden you start to see your likes growing. But a like, you can certainly click into each of those people and learn more about them, but you still don't really have their contact information. You could friend them and send them a message. You can send them a message without friending, and Facebook for a while was charging a fee to do that. I don't know if they still are. I haven't tried it lately. But I have a big surprise. Because, drumroll, I am going to mail each person who put an accurate address in when they registered for this webinar, I'm going to mail you a special report. It is 5 easy ways to get contact information from your Facebook fans. Now, obviously, you saw how I did it with this webinar today, but I'm going to share 5 ways. I know when you read this report that you're going to come up with a whole big bunch more. So I'll be putting those in the mail to you tomorrow. So Congratulations, I'm thrilled you're going to get that information. Because once you have their info, now you can take them off the social medium and now you can start your selling process. Now, when I explained earlier how I want you to hone in and do a lot of promoting of things close to home on Facebook by choosing those zip codes and things, well, now you can start to invite these people to special events. Now you can, now that you've got their address, you can mail them off a brochure if you want to. You can do all kinds of different things through other mediums once you've developed that relationship and collected their information from Facebook. So now you can do things like book parties or share your business opportunity. Remember, those things are technically also selling. All right. So once you go through this process, you can now do all kinds of different things to help build your business through those connections. So the last thing we need to talk about is to retain. All right. As long as your followers feel they're continuing to get valuable information from you, they will continue to follow, like, and sometimes even share what you post, which is a great way for you to continue to expand your likes. Okay, so you want to nurture them. You want them to feel like they know you, like you, trust you. And you don't accomplish that if you're always going, buy my stuff, book a party. You just got to let that go. Okay. You will be amazed at how much business you can get by doing the things I'm recommending. Now, you have to be patient with this process, because that's probably the thing that happens the most. People get a little anxious and they think, oh, I'll just slip one of those posts out there, and pretty soon you lose your followers. In fact, the thing is, if you think about it, if your customers like your company's pages, most of the direct sales companies do a really good job of what they post out there in the social media world. They're going to see those things from your company, and from if they, as they become a customer, if you use monthly email newsletters, they're going to get that information. So you want them to really stay connected to you and feel like you're that trusted friend. Because if you're not patient, you're going to lose them as followers. All right, I have gone through a whole big bunch of information in a very short period of time. So I would love it if you have additional questions. Go ahead and type them in the box, but I'm going to tell you some additional information because remember I said I'm going to share a big secret? Earlier, I told you that I would never try to teach you something that I had not tested or proven myself. So what we did, because, I really am passionate about helping my coaching students learn more about the social world and really put that medium to work so it helps them build their business. So recently, what I did with my team is that we signed on with a direct sales company, and I am not telling you this because I am in any way promoting that company, okay? We did this solely for the purpose of continually testing social media techniques. In fact, I signed on as a corporation, so you wouldn't find me out there. I'm not sharing the name of the company, and I am not interested in recruiting any of you into that company. So it is literally because I looked at its rules and regulations and I said, this is a company where we have permission to go out there and do these things in the social media world and test, because I'm going to make sure that the stuff works before I teach you how to do it. Okay? So I think of me as being the guinea pig so I can bring you the very best training possible. Now, I am sharing that information each month, what I'm learning as we're testing these things, and that's what I shared with you today. It's based on what we've already learned from testing. That info will be shared each month with my Business Builder Club members. And today's training is just one example of that kind of in-depth training and info you can have access to if you're a member of my Business Building Club. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take just a couple minutes and then I'll get back to the questions to tell you about my Business Builder Club. Now, we did a bunch of testing. I'm totally, I'm an engineer. I'm a geek. I test everything. So I love numbers. I crunch numbers. I test. I'm a geek. But we did some tests, and we found out that the very best format for a business builder club is to do a 4-week cycle. Because if we just gave you a whole bunch of stuff all at once, people got overwhelmed with the information and they didn't use it well. So now we trickle it out to you throughout a 4-week cycle. Okay? What you will get every week, number one, is a tip sheet. They're, basically about 1-pagers with quick tips, reminders, things to make you think about, things that will help you keep your business on track. They don't take a lot of time to review, but they're great reminders. The second thing you get each week is what I call money moments. I learned over my years in the business that the thing that held me back the most, and I really want you to think about this, is how I felt about money. The things that you heard your parents say, things like money doesn't grow on trees, or you have to work really hard to attract money. I had a family that worked all the time, so I really had been taught you had to work hard to make money. And I learned that wasn't helping me grow my business. So I had to really address my relationship with money. And so I want my coaching students to understand how much that can help them or hinder them in the business, and how working on that each week can help their business grow much faster. So you get a money moment every week. Both of those are delivered to you by email each week. We also have a special training report, and it covers a hot topic from bookings to sponsoring to marketing your business to social media to leadership. Whatever it is that month, it is jam-packed with great tips and easy to implement information. And a lot of my coaching students keep these in a binder, so as they're building their organizations, it's great information for them to tap into and, very quickly use for their own training events. I do a live webinar or a teleseminar, and it's either with me or with an industry expert that I invite to be on the call. And they're recorded and posted in the members only website. So if you can't attend when it's scheduled, no problem, you'll have access. We're really putting a huge focus on social media training. I told you about my special project. We want you guys to be rocking the social media world and getting great results for your business through it. So that's why we're putting a big emphasis on social media. We also put out a special training report on how to build your dream team. Lots of different topics, from how to deal with someone who's maybe upset, to how to build leaders on your organization, and all different kinds of things. Basically, it's the secrets that I learned that helped me build the huge organization that I built. And again, they're great resources. Another thing that happens in the club is there's a call-in day. In fact, we actually schedule a time on a conference line, and you can call in and ask me anything. So it's a great way to get direct access to ask me your important questions. And those are also recorded and posted in the club in case you can't attend. You can even send me an email ahead of time if you can't be on the call and you have a question. We also have a private forum. It's strictly for club members. It's a place where you can share ideas, post your questions, and give yourself a pat on the back because that's really, really important. I learned that the more you can pat yourself on the back, the more powerful it is and helps you build your confidence. I had to learn that. Plus, it's another way to have me see what you're doing and let me also, recognize you for your success. Consultant shout-outs. We want you to share what's happening. And so we actually include consultant shout-outs in the weekly emails that go to the entire club membership. And now that I am full-time in the coaching, mentoring business, I am developing additional training courses. And a lot of what's coming out this year is going to be based on social media. So my club members will get that at a discount. So if you are ready to join my family of superstars, membership is just $47 every 4 weeks. And if you think about that, that's less than the profits from, a couple good customers. So it's very inexpensive and a great way to get some incredible training and, of course, access to coaching from me. So, the information that I'm sharing just about social media alone, the way that it's going to help you use your time well, is probably worth 5 times or more what your club membership is. So for just $47 for several $100s worth of training, coaching, and great business building advice every 4 weeks, you can be a member. And today I have a special bonus for the first 8 consultants who join. I told you I wrote a book called I Did It and You Can Too, How to Build a 6-Figure Business in Just 15 Hours Per Week. Well, that book has a matching workbook. And that workbook takes you in and helps you take each concept from my book and apply it in your own business. Normally, it's a $97 investment. But the first 8 consultants who join my club from after this call, after this webinar, they're going to get that as a special bonus. So if you're ready to join my family, go to susienelson-trainingclub.com. And that's where you can join the club right away tonight. Can't wait to welcome you in. All right. So with that, let me go to some questions. Can we use from Susie? Can we use the attract style posts you just taught us on our regular Facebook page along with our personal messages and pictures? Is it important to have a separate business Facebook page? Do you know, it absolutely is, in my opinion. Great question. Thank you. Because the things that you do on your personal page, you know, you might have other family members post things to your personal page, or you might do some crazy things that maybe aren't, you know, things that you want to share with all your business clients. And maybe you and your family post things a lot. So you really want your business page to be separate. Even if you name it, you know, your name, you really want it to be a separate place, and you want it to be that page that you think about how you're communicating with your customers and prospects. Okay. I mean, literally, my niece, I adore her. She's just amazing. But she has a little boy who I think he's almost 3. I mean, she posted, 20 times a day on other people's pages about her potty training ventures, and just crazy things. And I have friends who will post crazy things on my page. So you really want to keep them separate, in my opinion. Thank you. Great question. What type of Facebook ads do you post? That is a really good question. And literally, it's going to be an entire training webinar in the club here next month. Because when you design an advertisement, keep in mind, I have a really strong background in advertising and in journalism and media. I went back to school about 10 years ago and got another degree in journalism, and then I worked as a reporter. Then I also went on and worked in the advertising and marketing department at our St. Paul paper for a couple of years. So I have a really strong background in marketing and advertising. You really want to design an ad well. You want to look at how you choose your photos. And they have a combination of advertisements in Facebook. They have 2 different kinds of ads, and some of them are more visible than others, because some of them come up in the news feed and others come over on the right hand side, and if you don't structure them correctly, you're not getting the most bang for your buck. You also need to be careful how you design your headline, and to be honest, in the Facebook world, you can get a lot more mileage out of a promoted post, to be honest. There's lots of ways, once you get them to your page, to then take them to that next level where they give you information. And you can also run Facebook ads that send people to a website. Now, again, when I talked earlier about you have to think about what you're going to do with them, I would never want to run an ad on Facebook that sent them to my replicated site from my company. And let me tell you why. Unless your company has a different kind of site from what I have normally seen, because most of the companies use 3 or 4 different companies' software, so they're all kind of alike. unless your company has done something different, right? Recently, most of those sites do not have a place for you to actually collect information from your visitors. So I'm not going to send them to that site unless I absolutely know that I can collect their information. So I would want to send them to my own blog page or website. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you run a Facebook ad, but you send them off of Facebook to your website, it's going to be a more expensive ad. I mean, there's all kinds of little tricks to it. So it's going to be an entire webinar. But definitely, if I'm going to run a Facebook ad, I'm going to really map out where I'm sending them and what I'm going to do with that person's information and how I'm going to collect that information and so on. What special techniques do I use to get local contacts? Well, first of all, if I have connected with my friends and asked my local friends to like my Facebook page, that's part of it. That's going to get you some local action because they're going to be connected to, at least some of their connections are going to be local people. But the most powerful local connection is to run a Facebook ad and to specifically choose your zip code or your city, and to also narrow it down like I described, where I talked about choose if it's if you want females or if you want males, and choose their age range, and choose if they have kids or not, and choose what they like. You can even choose if people have liked certain pages on Facebook. So in my case, I am a trainer for the direct sales industry, right? So I have run some Facebook ads where I actually will choose, I want it to show up on alongside of the page that might be Tastefully Simple. I'm just picking one out of the air. And actually what I do when I set up the ads that way is I do a separate ad for every single company that I'm going to target so I can see what kind of response I'm getting. The other thing you do when you run Facebook ads is you can run kind of what's called split testing. And again, that's getting way too complicated for this training. But there's all kinds of things that you can do to really hone in on your very best market. What are social media platforms that are a must for networking for home-based MLM? Is there a different approach that should be taken depending on the social platform? Kaz, that's a great question. Yes, when I said I think you need to be using a combination of media, okay, different mediums because they serve different purposes. For example, depending on your business, you might really want to take advantage of LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn is a great place where if you use that platform correctly, you can get attention every week. You can set up a discussion group. You can do all kinds of things out there because LinkedIn sends out a weekly update. You can be featured in that update by how you do your how you manage your LinkedIn account. Twitter, if you're a person who loves to be out on Twitter, if you use it well, and again, remember, the reason it's called social media is that this is the place that you're connecting and making friends and building trust, right? So if you're using Twitter well, where again, you're building a following versus just saying, buy my stuff, that's a great place. Pinterest. If you have things that are really visual, setting up Pinterest boards is fabulous. And so there's a whole bunch of different social mediums. And so what's important is to look at strategically how you're going to use them, look strategically how you'll eventually collect people's contact information from them to take them off the social media platform, and also to look at strategically how you can use your time effectively so you're not glued to your cell phone for updates every 5 minutes. Okay, so those are all really important things to answer as you're mapping out your strategic plans. Valerie, okay, where should we send questions? Valerie, you can type them exactly where you just sent this one. Is there a way that you can do creative connecting with your activity, which gives them insight a little on what you do or passions. Well, yeah, absolutely. If I'm understanding the question correctly, Jonah, you definitely, when you set up that page, you should be filling out all of your about information and putting in, any information that you want to share about, that you're with your company. And certainly, if you, let's say that you sell spices, if you cook something with that spice, share this recipe and say, oh, by the way, I use this spice from my company. But it's not you in their face going, buy this stuff. It's you, dangling a carrot and getting their interest and sharing some great information. In fact, I'm Bev Saunders, who is one of my leap year members. She actually does a great job on her Facebook page. She is a consultant with Wine Shop at Home. And she shares things about, how she's pairing a new wine that they offer with a certain kind of dinner, or, pictures of them enjoying a wine tasting and those kinds of things. But she's not in her connections face going, buy this wine this week. Okay. And so Bev, I'll answer your other question about, yes, as a leap year member, you absolutely have access to everything in the Business Builders Club. All right, Lori, if you have more than one company you are a rep for, is it best to have a page for each company? Lori, that is a super question. Earlier when I said, I think it's important that you set up your page to be you. Okay, it's your business page, but it's you branding you. And I use the example that that's what great realtors do. They brand themselves, the hotshots in the real estate industry. You need to follow their lead and do the exact same thing. Because remember, again, your page is not the place for you to be putting promotions all the time and bugging people all the time. This page is a place for you to develop relationships and develop leads. And eventually you'll dangle a carrot so that they will give you their contact information. So now you can approach them off the social media world to sell, to book parties, to maybe talk to them about the business, which is all a process. So as long as your page is just about you, it's fine if you're promoting more than one company. I know some people. I know a guy who, in the last 2 years, he has probably been with at least 7 different companies. Now, I don't understand why he's doing that, but every time he goes to these different companies, he's setting up a new page, and then he's asking everybody to like that new page. And then he's got a new email address, and it's like, okay, this is craziness. That's not healthy business. So if he just established a business page for himself and worked on connecting with people and developing his relationships through that page, he wouldn't have to worry if he chose to change companies. Do you, from Jennifer, do you have any app or website to connect to our Facebook business page for them to enter their contact information? You know what? There are tons of apps. In fact, one of the things we've been testing, because you know how there are those tabs that you can set up on your Facebook page. And I've been testing a couple different companies to see how their apps work, where you can literally kind of drag and drop things in and set up. I mean, it looks like a web page when it's done, and you just have to make sure you get the photos, the little images that fit the app space. They have to be set up for the right size. But so you can do some really fun things with those apps, and it's going to be on a future training. But definitely, that's a great way where you can offer something free, whether it's a free report or some free recipe or anything that is they consider great information that they're willing to give their contact information in exchange for receiving it. I mean, you can do those apps. In fact, you can set up a whole big bunch of them. You want to make them really visual so it catches people's attention. But absolutely. I don't have the names on the top of my head because we've been testing them, but there's a bunch of them out there. Some of them have a fee. Some of them are free. If you've got, connections that are just good with code and that sort of thing, you can actually set them up yourself even. So definitely, there are different apps out there. Are you seeing me type, Susie? Valerie, yep, I'm seeing your question. It shows up below. I would like to know, once we join the group, will we get more information? I have many, many questions on building pages, etc. on social media. Absolutely. My Business Builder Club has a huge emphasis on social media. We're ramping that up. I shared that I'm doing my special project because I absolutely, want to keep my coaching students on the cutting edge of the social media world and really turning those connections into business, because most people just aren't doing it right. So I want to make sure that I know how to do those techniques. Is the Essential Skills package included in your club membership? Jonah, thank you for that question. Jonah is referring to my training courses. One is called Essential Skills Bookings, and one is called Essential Skills Sponsoring. No, those aren't included as part of the package. Those are separate courses. They're available through my website at susienelson-training.com. Thanks for the question. You're welcome, Jennifer. Jennifer, I'm not sure what you're asking, what you would Google. Are you asking for an app, what you would Google? If you're still looking for an app, why don't you send me an email? I can look up the couple that we've been testing. One of them made me mad because it was easy to set up, but they put their own logo at the upper right hand side of your page unless you paid them like $20-$30 a month, or maybe it was even 40. And that just irritated me. It's like, I don't mind if it was going to be really small down in the corner, but it was right by the like button. So it made me mad. So anyway, there was another one that I've just recently tested. But there's a bunch of them out there. And so I can send me an email and I'll send you the ones that I have on my database. Okay. All right. Let's see. From Lori, how would you suggest condensing your different pages to one? If you've got these different pages out there, I even have some out there, and eventually I just worked on moving people over, whether depending on how many followers you have. I mean, if you have, in huge numbers of followers, you might have to think of a different strategic plan. But if you don't have huge numbers, and if a lot of them are the same people following you on both pages, I would just start posting for a few days, hey guys, I realized that I should condense this all to one page. So here's where you're going to continue to find me, and just move them all to one account, and eventually you can shut down the other one. I would love the information on the apps too, please. So just send me an email. Do me a favor. If you would send it to Susie at susienelson-training.com. And I've got some other stuff I have to do tonight, so we'll work on getting it to you tomorrow. Scotia missed the question. They were wondering about different apps that you can use to capture people's contact information. All right, so let me give you guys one example. I use right now Aweber for my email blasts. Okay, so in Aweber, and again, this will be training within the club. Aweber, there's MailChimp, Aweber, Constant Contact. They all do the same thing, where they help you collect people's names, email addresses, any other information you choose to add to the sign up form. And then you can even send them automatic emails if you want to through those systems. Again, this is advanced kind of stuff. So if you're a newbie, don't let this overwhelm you. Just focus on what I taught you earlier. But through those systems, they actually can work inside of Facebook apps, so that you can set up a form in Aweber. You can put it into the app on Facebook, and when somebody enters their information, it's collected by Aweber. If you have set up automated emails to those people, it launches that process. So there's all kinds of cool things you can do. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So the app that the person was asking about is, what possible things could be used to set up things to collect people's information. What is my email address? My email address is Susie. That's SUSIE. In fact, let me, I'm going to put it in the chat box so everybody can see it. It is Susie at susienelson-training.com. So feel free to send me those questions there, and I'll be happy to get back to you on them. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay. I missed the part about apps that collect customer info for free promotion. Boy, lots of interest in these apps. So obviously I'll have to put that on the list for the next training through the club. I have an established page. Can I change its name? Do you know, I don't think you can do that very easily in Facebook. Last time I researched that, because I had one I wanted to change the name. Once I had set the URL for it, Facebook pretty much said, I think they let you change it once. So you might check into that. I mean, I had changed it from that name where it just puts all those numbers behind it, and I had changed it to a name of a website. And when I checked it, I couldn't change it again. But you might be able to make the change once. Dig into the Facebook information on it. You know how to, I'm assuming you know how to dig into their help stuff. If not, send me an email. But they might let you change it once unless they've changed that rule. Like I said, Facebook changes things all the time. Why AWeber over Constant Contact? Just curious. What's hilarious is I do all the social media work. I love to test this stuff. You guys, I'm a marketing freak. So I have done all the social media and website blog updates for this real estate company that builds these really high-end, gorgeous homes. And I've done that for a couple years. They're in Constant Contact. Okay. Then my own stuff has been in AWeber for a long time. And the reason at the time that I chose AWeber was Constant Contact had some challenges where some MLM people had loaded in email addresses that had a bunch of spam. And I might be quoting the story incorrectly, but this is what I was told by a person at Constant Contact, because I actually used to use their service. They really didn't want network marketing / direct sales people, because if they can't get their emails delivered, so if their server starts to get known as a server that sends out a lot of spam, then they don't have good success delivering their emails, and then their service isn't worth anything. So they really at the time were frowning upon people in the network marketing, direct sales kind of businesses being using their services. So that was when I switched to AWeber. At the time, AWeber had a couple different features that I also really liked, but I've been with AWeber for probably 4 or 5 years, and of course all of them have changed so much these days. I mean, they're so easy, drag and drop, and easy to use. So that was the scoop there. All right. So any other questions? These have all been wonderful. Thank you all so much. I'm so glad that you were on here tonight. So if you have any additional questions, you've got my email address. I would love for you to, be part of my club. So if you want to head over to susienelson-trainingclub.com, if it's the right match for you. Like I said, we're putting a big focus on social media, but it's also loaded with so many additional great training and information that I think you'll get a seriously huge value for your monthly membership. So again, thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be in contact with you soon. Okay, have a great night.